Cavalier, Senior Vice President of the Americas for El Al. Thanks so much for joining us here. We're not just celebrating this weekend the 75th anniversary of the State of Israel here in New York. This is 75 years for El Al as well. So it's kind of a momentous occasion for the airline.
It's a momentous occasion, it's a momentous month, and it's a momentous year for us because much as we've seen through the history of the nation, the airline and the development of the airline is intertwined inseparably with the nation from the very beginning. I guess a little known fact amongst many groups that I'm finding is that El Al was actually conceived, the airline was started very specifically for its first mission, and that was to bring the very first president, Chaim Weizmann, out of Geneva to Israel, to the new nation, to take over as the first president. And that was the whole reason the airline was started. And just through fruition and very fruitful development from there, we've moved on 75 years later, along with the development of the country.
Well, recent history, no pun intended, there's been some turbulence in the airline industry, but El Al just releasing its five-year vision, five-year plan. Tell us a little bit more about what's in store for El Al.
Yeah, absolutely. Turbulence for the industry in general. That's how the industry works, right? We have 2 modest years, very modest years of modest profit, followed by 20 years of losses. And that's the way the entire global industry rolls. But fortunately, because of a lot of the changes that we've made internally at El Al, particularly over the last 2 years, that on the backside of recovering from the pandemic, it's been actually very, very good years for us. I think you may be aware that a couple of years ago, we took on new leadership, new ownership in the airline. And along with that, we've made a lot of changes to how we operate in terms of more efficiencies, in terms of a far greater focus on service development, expansion, new airplanes, all of the behind-the-scenes elements that all contribute to being able to deliver a much better product for our guests, as well as operating a more efficient airline. So as a result of that, we wrapped up last year on a fairly good note, especially considering where we'd come from in the previous years. We've had a good quarter this year, and it's been really the launch point for our new 5-year plan now going forward. And with that, we will continue to update the fleet. We will be adding more airplanes. We're right now about 45 airplanes in the fleet. We'll go to 60 airplanes, maybe a couple more over the next few years. We have put in all of the brand new Dreamliners, the 787 aircraft, really the most sophisticated, most state-of-the-art aircraft that's out there serving the commercial market. So that lends to a much more comfortable ride for our guests. Here in the United States, North America, we operate exclusively the 787s, the Dreamliners. And now we'll be turning our attention to renewing the narrow-body fleet, the single-aisle aircraft. So that's in the plans. More destinations globally, but also more destinations here in the United States. The U.S. continues to be one of the single most important markets for El Al worldwide in terms of the volume of traffic and flights that we operate, passengers, and contributions to El Al and to Israel as the bridge, if you will. So plenty of growth and reinforcements there as well.
I think it's fair to say, and I'm both American and Israeli, that there is a difference in the way customer service is viewed in Israel and in America. El Al recently overtaken by Kenny Rosenberg, American-born. There seems to be a renewed focus on customer service for El Al that's really a big part of this 5-year vision. It's
a very big part of it. It's a fundamental. And Kenny is absolutely clearly focused on the level of service that we're going to deliver. As a matter of fact, that was one of the foundational points as to why he made the investment in becoming the controlling shareholder for the airline, because he knew what we could be. He knew the importance of Israel having its own national airline that would develop and deliver a superior level of service. Just this afternoon in the lobby here, chatting with another one of the attendees this afternoon, again, I was heartened to hear from them saying that, yeah, I flew with you guys last month, and what a world of difference. So we're trying to roll that out in terms of a consistently higher standard product, both on the hardware side, meaning the aircraft and all the components, but also on the software side and the soft touch side that kind of separates us from anyone else. So it's truly an Israeli, truly a Jewish experience on board the aircraft and with us as you check in at the airports, as you arrive on the other end. So yeah, paramount focus there on the service standards.
There were a lot of Jews that moved out of New York during the pandemic and headed down south to Florida. And El Al made that move as well, moving out of the region down to Fort Lauderdale. What are the advantages of the new hub and the new headquarters down there for the airline?
We did. We moved our headquarters to South Florida, and we did that because when we take into consideration realigning the airline, completely restructuring it so that we are much more in line with the contemporary rest of the industry, we're able to operate in a different environment, in an environment that requires less real estate, an environment that focuses more on technologies, an environment that allows us to move into lower cost operating conditions as well. So we made that move to Florida not only from an administrative standpoint. New York, the JFK operation, the Newark operation, still remains our flagship operations here in the United States in terms of size and frequency. But we are also continuing to add service to both Miami, and now the announcement of service will have nonstop service from Fort Lauderdale to Tel Aviv. So.
We have about a minute left. There has been so much made about the financial condition of the company. Obviously, it's on steadier footing than it was. What does the future hold here in terms of the position of the company, and what do you need to do to avoid 20 years of losses?
Yeah, look, our industry, regardless of which airline, it is a cyclical industry. And you go through periods where even factors external to the airline's control will impact you, whether it's a pandemic or a volcano or socio-political factors. And you have to be able to withstand all of that. And I think one of the ways that you mitigate the ups and downs, no pun intended, is that you stay very focused on what your core plan is, and you make sure that you have as your imperatives the service to your guests, to your passengers, because once you gain their confidence, you've worked very hard to earn their business. But if you don't consistently deliver it, it's very easy to lose it and get that back. So I think it's make sure that we have a solid plan, make sure that we're focusing on the customer as the number one priority of who we're delivering and how we're delivering the service, and then stay focused on it and march forward.
Mark Cavalier, Senior Vice President of the Americas for El Al, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much.